Um, John, you and I have been friends for quite a while, at least since I moved back to Pueblo anyway. And I really enjoy talking to him. He calls me up on the phone every so often, and we just sit there and chat about each other's genealogy. Um, like John said, I came from San Luis, or an area near San Luis. That's where I was born. And my family has lived there probably since around the early 1800s. At least I know my third great grandfather tried to settle there, but he was kind of kicked out by the Indians. Later on, his sons came back and resettled that whole area. And ever since then, everybody has been born in San Francisco, Colorado. And then finally, my dad moved to Pueblo. And from there on, the family has spread all over the place. So let me get started here with my presentation. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. I'm hoping everybody can see that. Okay. Okay. DNA has three different tests, and only three that are important for genealogy. The first one is autosomal. It's the one that most people take. And then there's the mtDNA, which is a mitochondrial DNA, and can be taken by both men and women, but it follows the women's side of the family, the mother's side. And then there's Y-DNA that only men can take, and it follows the father's or the male side of the family. So let's get started with the autosomal DNA and briefly talk about that. It follows, you can get information from all the ancestral lines using autosomal DNA. And it can be gotten from family tree DNA, ancestry DNA, MyHeritage DNA, and 23andMe. And there's a bunch of other places you can purchase DNA, but these are the major ones. Ancestry DNA is the major one. It has literally millions of people on it that have taken their DNA. If you combine family tree, ancestry, and 23andMe all together, their database is just a drop in the bucket of family trees DNA. So it's really a big DNA place to start with. And I would recommend, if anybody's wanting to take their DNA, to start with family tree. And that is because they have such a big database. And if you would like to have your DNA on the other databases, you could actually download it from Ancestry and move it to Family Tree for free. And you can do the same thing on MyHeritage DNA. And you can use their databases. And I've done, that's the way I got on both Family Tree and My Ancestry. I have not done 23andMe though. I think most of you know that we all get various parts of our DNA from our parents, grandparents, and so forth. All this DNA, however, is recombined genetic information. This is why we really don't look like each other. It's because we get a little bit from each person. Ethnicity estimates, as you see here, are the big thing that most people look at when they get their DNA. I started back in 2016 with Ancestry DNA, and as you can see over time, it has changed a little bit. My Native American was 40% in 2016 and 43% in 2019. In 2024, as of today, it's around 43%. It hasn't changed that much. Now, Family Tree shows it as 37%. MyHeritage shows it around 61%. So there's quite a bit of difference here. But look at the top over there title. It says ethnicity estimates, and that's exactly what it is. It's an estimate. Now, GEDmatch is another place you could take your DNA and get even more people to test with. But as you can see there, American Indian is around 39%, and it's 36% using another test. And both of these are on GEDmatch. But again, these are all estimates. Let's start with family tree DNA to show you exactly what the type of things you can do. Excuse me when I drink some water every now and then, because my mouth gets a little bit dry every now and then due to the medication that I have to take. Family tree DNA, right now I have around 7,576 matches. If you were to look at my autosomal DNA on Ancestry, it's closer to 200,000 cousins. So you can see there's quite a bit of difference between Ancestry and Family Tree. Family Tree will show you the topmost person that has the most shared DNA with you. In this case, it's my mother. And it shows you exactly how much DNA you share with each person. The higher the amount of DNA you share, the larger this number is going to be. This number is called centimorgan. And don't be afraid with that name. It's just a name. The problem with learning DNA is all the various names you have to learn. It gets kind of complicated if you don't remember exactly what they mean. In this case, centimorgans, it's just a measurement. It measures how much DNA you share with somebody else. As you can see below my mother, I share less and less DNA with my uncle. It's 1,700, with a man named Marty. He's a first to third cousin. It's only 247 DNA, and all the way down. I think most of you have seen a chart like this where you see your father and mother and yourself and your brothers and sisters and nephews and daughters, grandsons all below you, and then your uncles and grandfathers, great-grandfathers, and all these are really nice to show exactly where everybody fits. For DNA, a man by the name of Blaine Ballinger came up with a really neat solution to figure out how you match to somebody. Like, for instance, I matched to a friend of mine here at the FACC by the name of John Valdez with 17.7 centimorgans. So if I put that number over here, it changes this whole chart to look exactly like this. Before that, I would be in the center. I'm right here, and I can match just about anybody, but the centimorgan number is going to change everything and blank out the people you don't match. The possible matches are all going to be on the right side and the left side. And they're going to go from anything from second cousin, first removed, all the way up to sixth cousin and eighth cousin. And on the left side, they all could be half cousins. It so happens that John and I were talking about our DNA, and I was searching over at the Albuquerque library one day with him, and he asked me what I was searching for, and I told him I was looking for my grandmother, a Cerda. And he said, well, I have a Cerda in my family. So we checked each other's tree, and sure enough, we did. So what I did was I plugged in his how much we matched which was 17.7 centimorgans. And like I said, it could be anybody here. And then the next thing I did was took his family tree and plugged them right into this chart. You can see where I'm sitting here right here in the middle. And John is sitting over here on the right-hand side. So he turns out to be a fourth cousin, one time removed, with only 17.7 centimorgans. Now, our common ancestor is really Diego Cerda. He is the brother of Jose Cerda, my great-great-grandparent. Now, Diego Cerda's grandfather is the marriage record that John was talking about. This is the record. It says 7 December 1758, Juan Antonio Cerda Coyote married Maria Garcia Coyota, witnesses el concurso. You notice that Coyote and Coyota are kind of misspelled. The priest spelled it with an I instead of a Y like we would spell it. But like John said, Coyote is really a mixture of Native American and Mestizo. And Mestizo is a mixture of Indian and European. So the parents of Juan and Maria are probably Native American. And more than likely, I will not be able to go any further back than this record. Now, here again, this kind of shows you how you match to somebody. In this case, at the right lower left, there's a 12 centimorgan section 1 and a 14 centimorgan also in section 1 that you match with somebody else in the same sections, and they could be in any one of these chromosomes. As long as you match, then you're probably a cousin. More than likely, you're going to need more than 12 centimorgans, usually around 15 or more. Now, in the one of the things you can do in the family tree DNA is something called chromosome browser. If you're a member of the family tree DNA and you have matches, you can go to your matches and then click on chromosome browser, and it will show you this tree or this your matches on the right, and then click on each of the ones you want to find out more about using the chromosome browser. I've checked Marty, Jason, Francis, and Samuel, and it shows them over on the left. They are going to be checked to me. And this is what it shows you. On the right is all the chromosomes that are matched, that all these people match to me. The colors, like on the chromosomes, match to Marty, for instance. He's all the blue ones. He has a blue one on the top chromosome on number 2, and the top chromosome on chromosome 3, number 6 on the top chromosome. So all these colors match to the various people. Now, what's important here is you want to look for something where you can match each other. And in this case, I have highlighted the 3 people that match. Chromosome 1, chromosome 2 match in 3 different places. Chromosome 2, there's 2 places, but got to have to remember they're all matched to me. So what we're looking for is 3 matches per chromosomes. Here's another one down here, chromosome number 6. These are all the people that have what is called triangulation. Here's another one from some other people. But what I want to show you is I also have a match for Francis on the X chromosome. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on. Here's some other people with Francis, a Rudolph, and Herrera that have 3 matches with me. Like I said, this is all triangulation, which is something you want to look for. And for the X match, this Rudolph also matches, and a lady by the name of Tejon has this match. This triangulation, what it really means is it involves 3 or more persons sharing the same DNA segments. 3 or more persons who are matching shared DNA segments is not enough. You actually have to share DNA all on one segment and on a specific chromosome, meaning a specific location with similar start and end points on the same chromosome, like you see over here under triangulation. So the only thing that really counts on triangulation is this short section on the blue one. So you match all these 3, and these can only be counted in triangulation. Now, how do you do triangulation? It depends on what software you're using. But if you want to know more about triangulation and the places that explains it a little bit better, go to the isog.org. They explain tons and tons of information about anything you want to know about DNA. At the very bottom of this page, they have a lot of different places you can read about triangulation. And if you pick on the very top one where it says tips for triangulating your DNA matches, it takes you to a place written by Diane Southard. She has some really excellent information on doing this and what software to use. Now, let's go to the X chromosome. The X chromosome can be had by both male and female. Now, the sex chromosomes are had by the mother and the father, and they're shared to each child. Now, as you can see here, the father gives the Y chromosome to a male child only. That Y child, the Y is not given to the female over on the right. The father can only give the X chromosome. So 2 X's make a female, a Y and an X make a male. That X is usually comes from the mother on both sides. Sometimes, however, that X also comes from the father. It's rare, but it does occur. So as you can see here, the Y only comes from the father. Now, what the nice thing about this X only coming to certain people is that it makes it easier to find out who has those X's. So if you find a cousin that has an X chromosome, you can check on the father's side or the mother's side. But on the father's side, you can only check the grandmother, the father or the mother of the father, or in this case, the female's grandmother. You don't have to, you can't, and you really don't need to check the grandfather because he would not give you an X, or at least for a female. Now, on the mother's side, you can check both the grandfather and the grandmother, and over here, the grandparents, but not the great-grandfather on the grandfather's side. So everybody that's highlighted here is the only people you need to check. Everybody that's not highlighted, you don't need to check at all. So it kind of shortens the list, at least for a female. Now let's look at the male side, because both the male and the female can get an X chromosome. On the male side, it makes it even easier. Everybody that's highlighted can give you the X chromosome. Over on the dad side, nobody is highlighted, so you don't even have to bother to check for the cousin that lives on his side of the family. So that's one of the nice things that you can do with an X chromosome is look for people that have that chromosome, and then look for just the people that would give you that chromosome. I have created an XDNA inheritance pedigree for myself here. Uh, my mother would give me that X chromosome. Her father and her mother could also give it to me, but only her grandmother on her father's side, both her grandfather and grandmother on her mother's side, and so on, going backwards. It's easy to do one of these. Just download the um, the graph like this, blank out everybody's name, and then put your names in there. Now, you and your relatives match the segments on chromosomes, like I said in the earlier parts. Now, there are 22 pairs of chromosomes with a total of 44, and only 2 pair of sex chromosomes. But remember, the Y DNA is only on the male side. And also remember, the female chromosomes are not mtDNA. A lot of people mistake the X chromosomes as being the mtDNA, but that is totally wrong. So, what is mtDNA? Here's a human cell. All of the chromosomes that you see here, including the sex chromosomes, are located inside the nucleus. The mitochondria is located outside the nucleus. So that's the big difference right there. So the mtDNA is all tested from these parts of the nucleus. Now, who gives you the mtDNA? Because both male and female can get mtDNA, so both of you can test. Now, I can get it all from my mother. It's only on my mother's side. My brother can get it from my mother, only on my mother's side. Now, my sister, she can only get it from my mother, but she can also get it from her uncle because he has it, but only through the mother. The uncle cannot give her that mtDNA because males cannot pass it on, even though they acquire it from their mother. So as you can see here, it only traces the female side. Now you can test the father side of the tree by testing a father that has the mtDNA, but he can only follow the mother's side, his mother's side. Same thing with an aunt or an uncle. One of the nice things you can do is join the New Mexico DNA project and give them your family tree, and you can join the mtDNA project and the Y-DNA project, and they can help you figure out what kind of haplogroups you belong to. Now, in the mtDNA in family tree, you also get matches. These are my matches in my mtDNA. In the entire database, I only have around 38 matches in this region, HVR1 region. There's the 38 matches. It is also telling you that my haplogroup is A. There are various haplogroups from A all the way to Z. And it all depends on what tree you belong to. And I'll show you all these various trees in a later slide. Now, there's various regions that you can test from. As you looked earlier, this 38 matches all came from a HVR1 region. The coded regions, which have more places to test, I only have one person, and it shows a genetic match of 0. But that means that the 0 is a one-to-one match. We match exactly. But be aware, a lot of people think when they see this genetic match of either 0 or 1 or 2, that means that they have a really close match. But that is not true. The match is identical, but you can still be matched to a most recent common ancestor thousands of years ago. It's not necessarily very, very recent. It's more than likely thousands of years ago. Now, the number of mutation differences between you and a match, fewer differences can indicate a closer relationship to the shared maternal line ancestor, like I said. Now, the haplogroup, it represents a shared maternal ancestor that lived thousands of years ago. Everyone in a haplogroup shares a common distant ancestor. So remember, your haplogroup group for an mtDNA is going to be thousands of years old. Now, here's all the various haplogroups for mtDNA at the very bottom. I happen to belong to the very first one, which is A. They all come from Africa. And as you can see, A is one of the few people that went towards the North and South America, along with all the other A, B, C, D, and E, and possibly even X. These are all Native American DNA. If you go to this phylotree.org, it'll show you all the various mtDNA trees. And since I'm a haplogroup, and I click on this bottom A, which, as you can see, it's not even shown here in Africa. It's already has moved out of Africa and moved on to other parts of the world. But if I click on that, it shows you exactly where it's located. A is over here. At the upper left is all the older ones. And here's where I am located, A2V. So it's much further on down the line, but it's still thousands of years old. Here's a close-up of exactly where that is. Now, don't let all these various numbers and letters confuse you. All that is a location on a particular chromosome where my haplogroup lives. For instance, A2V is C16239T. All that means is that a C has changed to a T in this particular location. That's all that really means. So as you can see, if I go over here at the very top, this G has changed to a question mark. So at this particular location, the G has changed to an A, possibly. So all these have various meanings. Over on the right-hand side, if I clicked on one of these, it will take you to a place where you can find even more information about your haplogroup. Here's my A2V haplogroup again, and I wanted to compare it to my wife's haplogroup. She happens to be A2H1A here at the very top. So as you can see, we are separated quite a bit. Literally probably hundreds or even 1,000 years or so. Now, it just so happens that when I got this, a lady by the name of Pat Sanchez Rao, I'm sure a lot of you know this lady, wrote me an email saying, I was notified this morning that you are a match to my mtDNA. My oldest female ancestor from New Mexico is Maria de la Cruz, who married Juan Perez de Bustillo, who came with Don Juan Oñate in 1600 from Mexico City. They came to New Mexico with 7 unmarried daughters, all who married single soldiers from Spain. Of the daughters, 4 were identified by name and 3 were not. Ana married Asensio Archuleta. Beatriz married Hernando de Hinojos. Yumar married Antonio Baca. Catalina married Alonso Varela Armillo. A name unknown married Juan de Padraza. And another lady named unknown married Francisco Ramirez. And another one married Francisco Vasquez. So if your mtDNA has A2H1 as the haplogroup, you all will match to Maria de la Cruz through one of these daughters, going all the way to your mother. If you want to read more about how she found this out through her mtDNA and using the New Mexico DNA project, go to familyheritageresearchcommunity.org and find her article. It's really interesting. Now let's go to Y-DNA. Y-DNA, like I said, it's all just on the father's side. It's all the paternal line. Here again, everybody on the paternal line that's a male is the only people that can test, and that will be on your trees. Now on your mother's side, only her father can test, or her brothers, or a cousin, and it has to be a male cousin. So again, these are all only going to be males on your mother's side. Now, to test, there are 3 tests you can get, and the best tests you can get are from family tree DNA. I would recommend starting with the Y37 because it is the cheapest one. And don't go with the Y111 or the Y700 right away, because you may get the Y37 and realize that you may only have 1 match or no matches at all. So it's no point in going any further if you don't have any matches or very few matches. So that's the only reason I recommend that you start with the Y37. And the other thing is, if you happen to have a lot of matches and you want to go further, I would recommend jumping all the way to the big Y700, because it will give you tons and tons of matches, plus much more information than the Y11 will. The Y11 is still a haplogroup that is thousands of years old, just like the Y37. The Y700 will take you down to the genealogical times. It can take you all the way down to, like, my grandfather has a particular haplogroup that belongs to him. So I have 3 haplogroups that are all in genealogical time on my father's side because of this Y-DNA. And I was able to find out who they are using it. So that's one of the reasons I really recommend this Y700 if you have a lot of matches in this lower Y37. The other nice thing is the money you spend on the Y37 will be taken off the money you spend for the Y700. And you can also buy the Y700 for about $200 or $300 for during Father's Day or Christmas or other holidays. Now, here's a chart showing where the Y DNA came from in Africa 230,000 years ago. It traveled this path, and as you can see, the R branch of Y DNA started 31,000 years ago. The RM269 started 13,000 years ago. This is where the Y haplogroup that I get when I take the Y37 or the Y11 test. That's as far as it'll go, as near as it'll go. So everybody that takes those tests are going to match to this point only. But if you take the Y700, it's going to take you on further, all the way to Spain and into the New World. So that's the biggest difference between those tests. Now, in the Y700, one of the big 700 block, this looks really complicated, and it is at first until you start to realize what is happening here. This is really a tree, and the tree is upside down, and that your ancestor is at the top, and all your descendants are towards the bottom. All the people out there at the bottom are the testers. In this case, there's 38 people that have tested that I matched to. So I matched to every one of these people. Now, there are letters and numbers attached to all these various blocks. Well, each one of these letters and numbers are really people. So instead of letters and blocks, let's go ahead and name some of these people. Like RPH3335 haplogroup. Let's name him Hernan Martin Serrano. And this RFTE, whatever it is at the right, let's name him Luis I Martin Serrano. Let's say we don't know who this person is, but he has R64368. At the left, let's say RFT184544 is Domingo. And they are all descendants of Hernan Martin Serrano. So you can go on down the line and put names to all these various blocks. So all these people down at the bottom are matched to all these people. But as you can see, this block here goes down to here and here. So only these people here match to Domingo. The same thing for over here on the left. Over on the right, Luis is down here, but the block only extends to the middle. So only all these people on the right match to Luis. All these people right here in the middle, which is where I am, go to an unknown Martin Serrano. At this case in point, using the Y-DNA, it has screwed up my tree completely. I do not match to Luis, and I do not match to Domingo. And at this point, I really don't know who I match to. So it's going to take a lot more research for me to figure that out. So like John said earlier, if you don't want to learn some unusual things, don't take a DNA test. Because without this Y-DNA test, I would have had a complete tree all the way to Hernan Martin Serrano. But it would have been wrong. But like John said, DNA does not lie. It told me that I do not belong to these ancestors. Now, here's another way to look at it. Here's this top haplogroup where Hernan Martin Serrano is. Over on the right is where I am, the unknown Serrano. This one is Luis. This one is Domingo. So as you can see here, all these people down here are separated from Domingo. So that's another way to look at that. Now, this is the original tree that people have been looking at for a long, long time, assuming that Luis I had all these children. Luis II, Pedro, Pilar, Antonio, and Domingo. Well, Y-DNA now is telling us that Domingo is not a son of Luis. So what's happening is Luis is a cousin of all these sons. And more than likely, he is a son of either Hernan III or an unknown son of Hernan II. And that's where we need more people to test so that we can figure that out. Now, I'm getting close to the end here, and there's a lot more I can describe about what I have done with Y-DNA and all the testers. One of the things that I have done is I have contacted every one of the 38 people, and most of them have gotten back with me and have given me their family trees and how they connect to the furthest person they have on their tree. So I've created this chart with everybody at the bottom and how they connect to everybody with Hernan Martinez Serrano at the top. I know you can't see everything, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit and start with people here on the right-hand side and then go to the people on the left-hand side. Okay, here's the right-hand side. And as you can see, Hernan Martinez Serrano is at the top. He goes down, has a son, Hernan II. He has a son, Luis Martinez Serrano. And then there's a son called Pedro, and there's Luis II. And then over to the right is more trees, but they all belong to Luis II. Now, below this are the people that tested and gave me their trees. They all have this particular haplogroup, RFTE 11-80. And as you can see, these dotted lines, they all go to this tree, this tree, this tree, on all these other trees. So they go to every one of those trees. So every one of these people have this particular haplogroup. Now, later on, they also get more haplogroups. For instance, this particular one, it is only given, however, to this tree right here and this tree. It happens to belong to the Senna family. Now, as you can see, this little block it's not a square, but it looks very similar to this. What that means is that this person, Juan Senna, was the person who was born with this particular haplogroup, and he gave it to all his descendants, which are all right here. Now, the earlier haplogroup in this particular block and color is over here at the top. It was born with Luis Martinez Serrano, given to all of his descendants, which are all these people. That's why you see all these dotted lines going up to all these trees. So it's really telling you that every one of these different shaped blocks is a particular haplogroup that was given to only these people in these trees. Like this diamond block only belongs to this Mondragon group. And they all came from Pedro Martinez Serrano. So you can see how everybody's starting to realize that they all come from Luis Martinez Serrano, but they all come from two different people, two different sons. These people on the right haven't been able to connect exactly how that is. So we need more people to test so that we can get more haplogroups to fill it in and find out who they are. So Over on the lower left, you can see PH3335. That little circle belongs to Hernan Martin Serrano. So that means he is down here at the right, at the lower left. And he goes all the way to Luis right here. Now, if I go to the far left, this PH3335 also goes all the way to this people and to this slip at the lower right, RTFT 184544, which is a parallelogram shape that it belongs to Domingo Martin over here at the upper left. Now, everybody has this particular haplogroup, every one of these people, because these dotted lines go to every tree. Later on, some of these people got another haplogroup, like this one right here at the lower bottom, and this tree has it, and these trees have it. But the one on the left, it does not. It comes directly from the parallelogram. But it does have another haplogroup, which came from Jose Ignacio de Loyola Valdez. But this Valdez really came from Domingo. So this Valdez is really not a Valdez. He's a Martinez. As all these other people who are named Valdez or Archuleta or Sandoval, they are really Martinezes. But so as you can see, Domingo does not connect to anybody because he inherited this particular haplogroup from from Luis I, not the other haplogroup from Luis I. So we don't know who he belongs to, but he for sure he's not a cousin. Now here's another way to look at this. And this is from the discoverfamilytreedna.com. And what it's showing you is a timeline of every one of these 38 people on the right-hand side. Hernan Martin Serrano is at the upper left. And the lines go down to each one of these haplogroups to all these various people. Let me zoom into the top. What I've done is I've added the names of the people that I test to and all the haplogroups that were born with this various people in the trees. So as you can see at the top, this RY64368 belongs to me over here, but he's unknown. We don't know who he is. But Luis Martin Serrano belongs to this RFTE 11280. And he gave it to every one of these people between these two dark lines. So there's a separation between these people and these and me over here. And then again, this line over here goes to Domingo. And he gave this particular snip to every one of these people on the lower right. So again, it shows you how they are separated. So it really shows you that Domingo is not a sibling to Luis. Here's a better close-up of exactly how it shows you that where I come from here, and then Luis goes only to these people, and Domingo only goes to the people on the right-hand side. The people in the middle are the people that we have found that belong to particular SNPs. Like a son of Domingo has a SNP called RFT216699. But putting a name to it is so much easier than just a number. So that is it for my talk, and I'll leave you with this little cartoon. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Tom. We really appreciate that. And I look at the room here, half of them are Martinez's. So, is there some questions that people want to ask? Maybe have a few questions so we don't throw off our schedule entirely. Any questions from the group?
I want to know what its haplogroup was.
What is your wife's haplogroup, Tom? Do you know?
My wife's is, she only took the mtDNA. And so it's 2VH1.
The question here is it A2H1?
No, 2VH1.
Okay.
And that's for the mtDNA. The haplogroup for the Y, I had her brother take it, and it turns out to be totally different from me. It goes to the Netherlands. People on his side of the family came from the Netherlands. It's an I-273, something like that.
Hey, Tom?
Yes.
My brother, I had him also test for the big Y. First, he tested on the Y37, and we only had one person. This was about 10 years ago. And now that we're here at this date, we found 23 more people.
Oh, great.
From the big Y. So I thought that was amazing. And I'm yet to contact them because we finally got the results. But his group is M22314. So that's part of the, well, it says the ancient maternal origin haplogroup. I don't know what that means.
So the haplogroup is H, starts with H?
M.
Oh, M.
Mm-hmm.
Is it M269?
It's M223.
223. Okay. So it's not Martinez.
No.
No. Yeah, do like what I did. Contact the people.
Mm-hmm.
Try and get their trees. Some of them have their trees already on family tree DNA,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get them from there and then start creating kind of a graph like I did. Now, I didn't go very much into how I did all this, but what I've done is I've written an article for the journal, and it's going to come out this summer, and it's going to be about 12 pages or so of detailed information on how I did this. So you can read that and kind of follow exactly what I did, and it's really going to help determine how you match to everybody, or how the male side of the family matches.
Okay, I'll take a look at that once I get it. But I do show that he had a Joseph Martin.
Joseph Martin?
Martin.
So so that means he's not really a Martin.
No. We're Valdez, so.
Yeah.
That was kind of a switch up from that. But thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Question. If we take away all the European and we just focus here to the Americas, where did we come from? Where if everything originated in Africa?
Oh, okay, Tom, the question came, if we took away all the European blood and only concentrated on the DNA from Mexico, the Southwest, or whatever, where would they come from? I think your graph showed that they would come from Africa, go over through the Bering Straits and down in without any other type of interjection by any other.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Everybody came 230,000 years ago from Africa, and it spread northward and east and west. And the people that crossed the Bering Strait and went to North and South America are all Native American, and they all have a particular haplogroup, both the males and the females. My uncle has a Q haplogroup, and Q is all Native American. So anybody that takes a Y DNA and they have a Q haplogroup, they are Native American.
Okay, great. Any other questions? I think that's the only questions I have here. So I was just going to ask if there's anyone that has any out there in Zoom land. I guess not.
Okay.
I really appreciate it, Tom. You really answered some questions and really confused me a lot more.
And that's the way it goes, you know.
It really is.
We just have to keep reading and rereading and rereading. I mentioned that in my article at the very beginning. If you want to learn something about it and you don't understand it, just read it over again. It'll sink in eventually.
Yeah, and I think the best part is that we have this recording. We'll post it to a YouTube account that we have and stuff, so people will be able to go back and see this. So, and
showing that you know, my Martinez and his Martinez are 100% off. You know, I'm not Hernan Martinez on my father's side at all. We're Rolay.
Yeah.
But you still come out Martinez.
well, I don't know how to interpret that. John Martinez saying that, oh, he's going to come up. So,
That's why he went that far.
need help. Wow, get stiff.
You know how it is, Tom, with our bad legs, right? With you and me, it's so different. You had to kind of show me this to make me understand. We're both Martinez, but we're not Martinez.
That's right.
I'm not. I have Martinez Solano, but it's on my mother's side. But my family, even though it's Martinez, and we went down to the IM 253 and through this thing, and you and I had a lot of long talks over this one, and a lot of emails going back and forth. My family is Grolet. It's French. And this guy was a sailor, and there was a big, I can't remember who the expedition was. There was a big wreck of the ship by Mexico. In Mexico, he went into Texas, wound up living with some Indians, and finally he left, and the Mexicans took him and sent him to Spain, and they said he can go back if you go to New Mexico. They got over there, and so of course the Spanish couldn't have a French name, so instead of Grolet, they said it's Groulet. Now our problem is, from there, my family went to the Durani Chavez. We can't make that link between the Grolet and the Durani Chavez. And of course, I'm also thrown into the mess with the Vallejo, and then on top of that, then it comes to Martin. We both have the same last name, but we're not even related even distantly. So I think that's so hard. The other thing I think we have to remember is in the New Mexico, your dad and you may not have the same last name. You may have picked up your grandmother's name. You may have picked up somebody else's name. And that to me was a big shocker. So
yeah, John,
that's the reason we're not related. I can remember you taking the haplogroup tree and trying to explain to me, your wife and I are related, but we're really related a long way apart.
Yes, we are. Let me try and explain that a little bit, John. You say that you have Martin, and it all comes from your mother's side. Well, that is due to the autosomal DNA only, not the Y. It comes all from the ancestry or wherever you got your autosomal DNA. So, and more than likely a bunch of other people, tests or cousins and ancestors came through the autosomal DNA. But your Y DNA definitely came from Durani Chavez. Right. And then the name was changed to other names due to what's called a paternal event. that paternal event is usually either an adoption or the wife had an affair with a Martinez.
Well, it was a natural.
Yeah, so that's where the Durrani Chavez changed to a Martinez, let's say. But yeah, or Vallejo, then a Martinez. So there was more than one paternal event. So that's what happened, and how you got the name Martinez.
Right. All right. Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
I'm never going to let John ask a question again. It wasn't a question, John. Okay, well, that's it, Tom. We really appreciate it. So
sure. Thank you very much, John. Thank you, Albert.